Greetings, everybody. What's going on out there? Folks in Canada, folks all around the world. I am so honored this week to be joined today by a special guest. 7 gold and platinum albums, numerous Juno Awards, recently inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame. So congratulations are so in order for that. He's joining other legends there, such as Neil Young, Leonard Cohen, Gordon Lightfoot. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Kim Mitchell.
Thank you. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to be here, Pete.
I'm so happy that you're here. This is just amazing for me. So it's really
Oh
fun.
man, well, thank you. I feel like I'm finally getting my big break that I've been waiting for in my career. No, I'm a big fan. I've been watching your podcast. I just watch you do gear demos and for a long time and stuff like that. And your playing is just beautiful, man. Like a nice balance of sort of schooled and well studied to just playing it from the gut and from the heart too. I love that about you, man.
That means so much to me. Thank you, man. I really appreciate
it. You're doing a Van Halen thing, right? What's a tribute? Is it?
Yeah, it's my buddy Mitch Malloy asked me to go to Florida, so I'm headed over there. We were just talking about because you just did your first gig back in a long time in Sarnia, your hometown, last night.
He's from there, is he not? Mitch, the bass player. Who's the bass player?
Dan from Phil X's band is actually Canadian.
Okay, that's not who you're using then.
No, so Mitch is. I'm not sure where Mitch is from, but he's from, I think, North Dakota, actually, so not far.
Okay. I'm confused. I heard that you were maybe using Phil's bass player.
No, that's right. We are using Phil's bass player, Dan. Yeah, so he's coming to. That's correct. So we're lack of communication, but that's actually true. And that'll be great because I've never met him. So it's like another Canadian on the gig. That'll be fun. But I'm a little, it's scary going back out there and doing it. And so how was that last night for you in Sarnia, your first gig back in a while?
Well, it's kind of I said to the guys, good things happen. My voice worked because it's all about, I'm the singer in the band too. And if that's not happening or if I'm struggling with that, you're just like the dialogue just starts in your head the whole time. So that was working. My hands were not, even though I'd been working on the songs and stuff like that. We had 2 rehearsals. The point is that you can rehearse in your basement. You can be playing stuff like that. And then when you hit the stage, it's a completely different animal. Licks that you like have down great. And just think, I'm going to do that in this song this time. You can't even come close to executing any of it because it's just strange that way. I think it takes 6 or 7 shows to sort of get into the groove, right? So if I were you, if you're starting, just lower the bar a little bit. Just go, hey, if you were a runner and hadn't been doing anything for 2 years, and all of a sudden you're going to go out and do 6K. It's gonna hurt.
That's great advice.
It went okay though.
Yeah, well, that's really good advice for anybody like to kind of. I like to ease into the show and don't make it too hard on yourself. I love that that approach. I'll never forget it's the biggest crowd I've ever played for in my life was in Colombia in 2004, and I was playing with a guy that taught me such a great lesson. His name's Draco Rosa. He came out on stage and we had the set list there. We're ready to go. And there's 140,000 people there.
Wow.
And I was like, everybody's, we're all like, okay, here we go, and he came out and walked on stage and he started jamming. He just walked out and and there's like some groove that, and some riff on the guitar. And he looked at Toss, the drummer. He goes, well, you're going to come in or what? And Toss is like, okay. And we jammed for about 2 or 3 minutes. And it was, because it was like
you chilled out, right? You started to chill out and get into the groove.
Yeah.
There's also, as I've been told, sort of similar stuff. I've also been told the whole key is to walk out and just not give a shit. Just like don't care if you mess up. Who cares? What does it matter? Like, what are you going to do about it? So, I remember in my radio career, which I had a radio career for 11 years up here.
Yeah.
I had Steven Tyler and Joe Perry on, and I was asking them about rehearsals, and they've been rehearsing for quite some time. And I said, you can rehearse. I said, when you get on stage, like I'm sure every band has train wrecks the first couple shows, like, whoa, what was that? And they said, oh yeah. And Tyler all of a sudden turns to Joe Perry and goes, why are we rehearsing so much, Joe? He says, because it's going to happen anyway, right?
Right.
That was a really bad Steven Tyler impression, by the way.
No, but that's great. That's, and they're a terrific example of a band that seems to maybe embrace the mistakes and just go for it, like mistakes are opportunities or something.
Yeah, real bands, man. It's all right. Real rock.
So you recently released your 15th solo album, which is The Big Fantasize, which is amazing, by the way. I just love it. It's terrific.
Oh, thank you.
First since 2007, is that right?
Yep.
Studio album. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And yeah,
done by Greg Wells, a fellow dude from LA.
And he played keys with you when he was like a young man, right?
He was in the band at I think somewhere between 17 and 19 years old. He knocked on. I was married at the time, and he knocked on our door. And my wife at the time went to the door, and I guess he just said, "I want to play in Kim's band. So, is he home?" That happened a couple times. It happened to Joe Walsh called once. And she goes, "There's this crazy guy named Joe on the phone." I said, "Joe who?" "Joe Walsh." I went, "What?" But Greg said, "Yeah, I want to play in your band." So I gave him a really hard audition. I had him do this thing where this sort of complicated bass part in one of our songs called City Girl, and a funky organ part and this really moving bass. And I said, "There, go do that," and a couple other tunes. I thought he'd disappear for a couple weeks, and he called me the next day, goes, "I'm ready." And he nailed it. So Greg, besides being a Grammy Award-winning record producer down in Los Angeles there with all you cats, he's an insane musician, really, really incredible, like drummer beyond. He'd pick up the guitar, back then and when he was in the band, and I'd just be going, "Wow, like this is insane, man."
Wow. Yeah, he's. I was going to ask kind of what he brought to the record, but that kind of answers that question right there. Maybe
he brought lots. He played a lot. I mean, he played a lot of stuff. He played drums, some of the bass stuff, and all the key stuff, and then mixed it, and just Greg's attitude towards the whole business and how to go about your headspace in a record. He doesn't like outside chatter. If he senses that you're saying something because some record company person or manager or a friend, musician friend, if he senses any of that, it's like he calls you on it right away. It's just like, "No, man." He says, "You and I are going to get this to where we love it." And that's all we do. He says, all the songs that I've had hits on, he says, there's two things. He says, they've been like the first or second take. And he says, and it's exactly that. We just get it to where we want it. There's no outside chatter. That's all you can do. And hopefully it'll find an audience. So it's kind of neat. We're in it because we create, and that's it. It's not about okay, gotta figure out a strategy here.
That's really terrific that I'd love to meet him one of these days, because he's I'm well aware of his work with with you, but also Adele and Keith Urban and all these people that he's worked with. And he's,
One Republic, Katy Perry. He did the soundtrack to The Greatest Showman. He's been kind of dabbling in that sort of stuff. His new studio in his house is Atmos and stuff like that. Did I say that right? Atmos?
I believe you did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool. I heard it.
I don't know. As you know, up here in Canada, we just got stereo last year, right? So
in the igloos, they've got stereo now.
That's right. Coming next month, cable. No kidding, man.
He's got an amazing plugin that I recommend. It's a Greg Wells signature plugin, the Waves plugin, and it makes everything. I was like, this is $49. It's the best $50 you will ever spend for your music. It's one knob, and you just turn it, one virtual knob. And
it's Greg Wells mix centric, right? Exactly. It's just one knob, and as you turn it up, it kind of just compresses and makes everything sound less broken.
Exactly. It's like, oh. Look how good my song is.
So where are you going with the Van Halen thing, man? You were friends with Eddie too. You're right.
Yes.
Okay.
I knew him I met him about 2008 or 9, and then we became friends. And for it was amazing because he was
Sweetheart.
as you were. He's just a real hero of mine, and then a total sweetheart. And it's so this is just a gig that we're doing in Destin, Florida on the
Oh,
9th.
Destin, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really just to kind of, he's been gone almost a year now, and it's like it's to honor his legacy, really, and just have some fun because we're all such fans of the music. So, but you've got some good Van Halen stories. I mean, you guys.
Well, I was going to ask you first, what song's giving you trouble to learn? I mean, probably a lot of them, but or do you have all that stuff down now?
Oh, I wouldn't. I mean, it's always I treat it like like any kind of being a sideman, and you're an actor. I always say, and you step into the role, and that role could be more or less comfortable, And it's always I forget the stuff, and I have to relearn it. And I've learned a lot of stuff that I'd never learned for the gig. So, but it's a really fun challenge and great for my playing.
And probably a tough crowd to please. I mean, when you're taking on Eddie Van Halen, it's like there's going to be the guys and girls out front going, "Oh, I don't know. What do you think?"
Don't remind me.
Yeah, we did 2 gigs with them with the Sammy variant, and I like both of them. I like both variants. I think they both were amazing and were successful as all get out. But we played a couple gigs with them. One was in Rochester, and we actually coined a phrase after we said, "Oh, we're going to pull a Van Halen," because they do all their meet and greet stuff before the show, and then the last song, even while the cymbals are ringing, guitars are fading out, they're coming down the stairs and into cars, and they're gone. So whenever we want to leave after a gig really quick, we go, "Hey, you want to pull a Van Halen tonight?" So it's kind of a neat thing that we take with us. But my sound man and my light guy and myself were on the stage on Eddie's side. And so you picture a couple sort of cabinet cases, anvil cases, and there's about 6 or 7 drinks on it. This is in Rochester, some outdoor stadium. There's 6 or 7 drinks up there. I guess it'd be Gatorade or whatever the heck he was drinking for the day. And it's an afternoon show. And we checked them out front, and then we're on stage, and Eddie comes running over once, and he takes a sip, and he goes, "Oh," I think he took a haul off a cigarette or something, or a joint. I don't know. He goes, "Oh man," he says, "it sounds like shit up here today." And my lighting guy goes, "Oh yeah, you should hear it out there." Oh man, it's like, whoops. But he laughed, but I'm just like, oh man. Some people don't have filters, right? They just don't have the filter,
right?
And it was it's a good thing he laughed at it.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's funny. That's funny. I would not have the nuts to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, but when I first met him, he came in the dressing room after our set, and he had the guitar, and he's warming up, and you know how hard it is to sort of be pulling anything off without it plugged in. Electric guitars are not plugged in; they're kind of plinky, plinky, plinky. And he was just ripping the most. He's talking to me like, "Hey, so that was a really good set. Like, what was that song you did?" Meanwhile, I'm not hearing a word he's saying because he's just like, you hear this little. Oh man. I was like, "Pardon, what was the question?" But yeah, sweet guy, sweet guy.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, he really was. He'll always.
So good luck with the gig, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's going to be fun. At the end of the day, we'll have a great time.
Yeah.
My buddy Lauren's in the chat there, and he says that he so feels you about your voice working, but like sometimes not other times. And for him, it's almost random failures. He says, "What do you do to keep it clear, your voice? Do you drink anything before the gig, tea or anything, or do nothing?"
No. Well, once in a while, we'll have a hot tea. Sometimes you have a shot of Jack. If your voice is in really rough shape, a doctor of emergency medicine in the States once told me to take, this is doctor's advice, and I'm not saying anybody should do this, but you can do some anti-inflammatories, and so that kind of settles down the throat if it's sore and it's irritated from overuse. But really, it's a muscle. You have to work it in. You have to use it, and you're going to go through that stage. And if you're playing steady enough, it should be in pretty good shape. That's good. You know.
What about guitar when it relates to, like, because you were mentioning Eddie warming up? Is that something you do before the gig? Do you need to get your fingers moving, or
No, we just sound check and then I leave it.
you do?
I do all my stuff, my homework at home.
Mm,
Um, Once in a while, I'll grab it and pull it into a trailer or something like that, or dressing room, wherever we are, and just sort of run over something that I want to make sure I nab. But once again, when you get on stage, it's like there's so many. Just there can be so many distractions on stage. Like, aren't the times great when you walk on stage and in the first 30 seconds you're like, it's grooving, it sounds really
mhm.
good up here, and I'm feeling good. Those are why we do it, right? It's
Yeah,
that feeling you could, because then you're starting to transmit that energy as a unit, and that energy, musical energy, transmits out into an audience, and that's when that whole magical thing is happening.
yeah.
And it's happening sometimes when you're having a bad night. How many times do musicians come off and go, "Oh man, that was a train wreck tonight," and a road manager or sound man will come back and go, "Oh man, that was great tonight." You're like,
Yeah.
huh? Like, what?
That's an
Yeah.
intangible. I've always been confused by that. But there's one experience in particular. I remember playing the Chicago Theater, and I was playing with the band Five for Fighting. I remember being so in my own head at the time, and it was right after 9/11. So they had this song called Superman that was widely sort of seen as an anthem for the firefighters, emergency personnel, and stuff. So that was the big song from that band at that time. And we're in the middle of that song, and I'm thinking about the drums aren't walking with the bass. I'm like, what's going on tonight? Can't anybody hear? It's like, is this and I'm playing, and then we stop, we end the song, and I'm in this funk, and the whole crowd stands up, and there's a standing ovation, and they turn the lights on in the house. And I was like, where the hell was I for the last 5 minutes? Because I wasn't
Yeah.
here. I wasn't being present. I was being
But
crazy.
yeah, but you can't beat yourself up as a musician for that, because you want to be feeling it right. And when it's not, it's trouble. It's troubling. And it's hard to go, screw it, whatever, so it sounds like shit right where I am or something. No, we care, right? We're musicians. We care,
Yeah.
But those, those are the times when we're having a great night, it's not work. When we're not, that's when you're making your $125, right?
Mhm.
So, you know,
I know what you mean too about stepping on stage, and it can be that first 30 seconds where you feel it's like, because it's you stepping into the great unknown a little bit every time, and when it settles in, you're like, good, everything's cool. It's a great
and
feeling.
have you ever had, as a musician, every gig is different. Like, everyone is. I mean, you're playing the same set, same songs. God, I've been playing some of this stuff for 35 years, 40 years, some of it. And every night it's like, oh, there's something different going on. Oh, this sounds a little different. I feel a little weirder, or I feel great, or,
Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
it
Yeah,
was
it's
great to
cool.
embrace it and just roll with
Yeah,
it if you can. I've tried to, to
yeah,
pick that up. I remember playing with Jewel, and she said to me, she goes, I don't know where my voice is going to go from night to night, but it'll always be
yeah,
something. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. It's like this tonight. And then just sort of,
yeah,
let's play to that strength
yeah,
or weakness or
yeah.
whatever, but turn it into a
Yeah.
strength.
You mentioned
Um,
Fight for Fighting. Is that Randy Cook is in that? Isn't he? Where he
that's
was for a bit.
that's
Do you
right,
know
Randy.
Randy?
I do
Yeah.
very well. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
Randy. Yeah,
Yeah. Who
he played with me.
doesn't?
Yeah, yeah, he's
Yeah.
so great. Yeah.
Yeah.
He How long did he work with you?
Another Canadian. He was with my drummers last about 5 to 7 years, and then for some reason, um, we go somewhere. I don't know.
Explode like Squirrel.
Well, yeah. I mean, uh, uh, I'm happy to say that a lot of guys I've played with, and crew members too, went on to do insane things. Randy's done well. Greg Wells was in my band. He became a Grammy Award winning record producer. Keyboard player Gary Bright has been with Bryan Adams now for a decade. Geez, yeah, just and some of the road crew. One guy was with me in the beginning of my career. Went on to do end up keyboard teching. He got his piano tuning license. Worked with McCartney. Worked with Prince. Like
Wow.
Bon Jovi. I think he's out with Steely Dan right now.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm happy for all these guys. So when they come to me and go, Randy, can you remember you? Hey man, I got a chance to move to LA. I'm like, yeah, great.
Hmm.
You know, we're like,
Well,
ooh.
I mean, to work with you, that wasn't a. To be in your band and play, your catalog. That's not an easy thing to do. So I mean, for these guys, I would say it was like boot camp to go on and do some other stuff.
Okay.
They were starting with a, Randy. I mean, I think he always kind of wanted to live in L.A. and he.
Yeah.
And he seemed he played with a kind of a who's who of Canadian artists, and then kind of made his way down here. And sometime I'm not sure when he came down. It was in the 90s.
Quite a while ago now. I mean, he's an American citizen now, so yeah.
Right.
Citizenship.
Yeah. That's still a weird. I became a citizen a couple of years ago, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm Canadian and American. It's a strange thing. It's an interesting feeling.
Yeah, no more changing of the seasons.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's a great setting. Yeah.
Somebody's asking in the.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. So I was
somebody's
asking in the super chat there. They say,
okay.
Thanks for being on the show, and you're a living legend. I agree. And any thoughts on Ian Thornley, another great Canadian guitar player?
Oh my God, I just love Ian. I was thinking the other day about how polls, piss me off. It's like, who's better? It's like that stuff is so useless. To me, it's like we all belong. We're all brothers and sisters. But I was thinking about great guitar players that I love, and Ian's like, for a rock player here in Canada. If you are watching this podcast and haven't checked him out, he is one badass rock and roll guitar player and writer and singer.
Yeah.
His presence on stage is so amazing. He almost played on my last record, The Big Fantasize. We were talking about it a lot. Then he started a record, and it kind of never happened. But we kind of have a little bit of a mutual admiration society, and he's a big Sir guy too, right?
He is. Yeah, I actually introduced him to John many years ago, and they became great friends. And now he's got his, signature models, and he's such a terrific guitar player. But there's a real correlation with you two fellas, I think, because you're both, like you mentioned. I mean, he's the triple threat: singer, songwriter, and guitar player. As are you. And it's an amazing thing because there's not that many guys that can do that, So.
But I think did he not study at GIT? Maybe. No, maybe he went to Humber. There's a Berkeley. Okay, yeah.
Maybe Berkeley. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he did the Berkeley thing.
I pulled my course out of a cereal box or something one day.
Come on now. There's many guys, as you know. I mean, Paul Gilbert, who I know you know and have met, and he cites you as an early influence and was, blown away by, as was I. I mean, the stuff you were doing, in the, we're talking
with Max Webster and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, late 70s was really interesting and groundbreaking as far as like some of the more, almost, where did that come from? The kind of sixes and the, it was almost like fusion influenced sound or something.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. Yeah, you're right. There was a bit of that. Hendrix was a huge thing in my life. And then along came John McLaughlin, Intermounting Flame. So a little bit of that stuff. And then Van Halen, of course. I took lessons for a year, so I was really working hard at the beginning of Max Webster with private lessons. I moved back from Greek island of Rhodes. I was over there, and when I came back to study with a teacher here in Toronto, and so that's where I sort of started to get a lot of that stuff. And then Max Webster, that band started to take off a little bit. We started to open for a lot of other groups and travel around the world. So the lessons kind of went to the wayside, but I sort of carried that stuff with me and incorporated some of it into my writing. It just sort of leaked in somehow, as it does, right? Your stuff you're working on, all of a sudden, But I think the solo Paul Gilbert was talking about was his song called "In the World of Giants," and it's a fast boogie, and the solo I got, it's just triplets. This band stops, and I do this little triplet run, and I think Paul mentioned that kind of rearranged some stuff in his brain or something during some interview once, and so it's. I mean, I look at all you guys like, man, I'm not even worthy. I'm just hacking around compared to you guys, really.
Oh
So
my God, no. I mean, it's like that band, that music is so interesting. What an amazing time in music too. It's that was around. You're from Sarnia, but then Max formed in Toronto, right? Is that correct?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that was 72,
Yeah, I'm not good with
72?
years, but yeah, it was early 70s because I think it was 71. I was taking lessons because I remember looking at them, well, a long time ago, and it said 1971. So yeah, 72, 73.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah.
And that spirit
And
of like, I mean, that band has such an incredible, unique, sounds like absolutely nothing else. What an amazing time to be able to make records.
yeah,
Yeah.
music. When you think, I was just randomly looking at some old Jimi Hendrix live stuff, and I was like, wow, what a brave time it
Mhm.
was. Like, you could be so brave just with music, old Led Zeppelin and stuff. It just, and Hendrix, just the way he, just jamming away on Spanish Castle Magic or something like that. And what a great time to be playing through those amplifiers and rock sort of forming. And then
Yeah.
just, when it all of a sudden becomes very formulaic, after a while, it's like all of a sudden it's like, well, we got to get on the radio. We need a chorus. We need this time. And the whole industry, the Bogues start entering into the business, and things became less free. I just sometimes I think back to that time, and I don't mean to ramble on about the good old days because
Oh, I
there's a
love
lot
it.
of great stuff that's
Right.
coming out. But I was just sort of blown away. It was literally this morning. I was making my breakfast, and on my phone I was watching Spanish Castle Magic of Hendrix and I think Denmark or Sweden, maybe. I can't remember what it was, a live show, and I was just like, wow, it's just so brave. He's just like,
Yeah.
he sing a couple lines, didn't even walk up and sing the whole chorus. Spanish Castle, man, step back and kind of played the guitar. And it was still out of tune, but it was just like, wow.
So
And they
cool.
just chant, yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Sorry,
cool.
I get kind of carried away and excited at seeing that,
He's right there.
comparatively speaking. Yeah.
He's listening to us.
But the beautiful thing too is that as generations change, so does the music, and it's a beautiful thing that when young kids become musicians now, say it the way you want to say it. It's your time, So I may not be able to relate to some of it, but the programming and the space bar and all that stuff,
Right.
but there's still it's valid, it's creative, it's your music, it's your voice, it's to your generation, and that to me is so. I don't sit there and go, "Well, I hate that," or I just sort of go, well, yeah, it's cool in this way. I try to find positive stuff about it.
Yeah, I feel like there's some great things happening that way where people are being a little more bold because the industry is such the Wild West now where it's like, well, if nobody's really buying records anyway, and you kind of got to go on tour to support or sell merch or whatever, everybody's just making the music that they want to make to some degree. I mean, it's like I question like what you even need a label for when you can just hire independent promotion and
Yep.
that kind of thing. And
Yep.
so I think there's a lot of great spirit out there right now. But that, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, your brothers in Rush, I mean, at the same period of time that you guys were with, coming out with 2112 when the label was like, we need a hit. And they're like, you know what, we're gonna crash and burn on our own terms if that's what it means. And boom.
You're right. You're right. And they were great teachers for to me. And
Yeah.
Max Webster, because we opened for Rush through the States numerous times. We went to Europe with them, we traveled across Canada, and that was their attitude. It's like, hey man, the three of us, it's our music, it's our lives. We're gonna do it the way we want. And no one's gonna, we'll listen to certain people that we trust, or if someone says something that makes sense to us, but otherwise, get out of here.
That's amazing.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it really taught me to sort of have that attitude too. It's like kind of like, no, you don't work for the labels and the publishers. They're working for you.
Mm,
It's your money. Yeah, they're fronting you some, but really it's your money you're making back.
mm.
It's your life, right? And your music. So get it to where you love it.
It's
Am I
such great.
babbling too much, man? I'm sorry.
It's
I'd rather
brilliant.
hear what's going on in your life,
No, no, no,
man.
no. Folks want to hear about you.
I
I
want
mean,
to.
this is
I want to start a podcast and interview you.
oh, well, and hey, anytime, please, please, please. This is fantastic. But no, I mean That you've played over 200 shows with those guys, with Rush, right? And of course, you did Battle Scar together. So, folks out
Yeah.
there, if you're not familiar with Kim and his past work, you've got to go back and check everything out. But one of the things you guys got in the studio, I've always wondered what that was like the day you recorded Battle Scar, which is
Oh.
both bands playing at the same time, right?
Yeah. We all at once, man. And
That's
yeah,
so cool.
well, it was, first of all, they'd come out and watch us do the song Battle Scar, and then they went, you guys ever going to record that? We'll join you if you want. We're like, and we're in the dressing room going, did they just say that? Did Rush just say they'd record it with us? So we got it booked, and yeah, both bands, all the gear came in, 2 drum sets, Alex and I standing together, 2 basses. It literally sounded like a 747 taking off in the studio. As tape machines, we ran it a couple times. Then we took a take. We had it in the first take, but we just kept playing it for like an hour. It just used up all the tape in the studio because we're having such a good time. I think as Pi Dubois, the lyricist of the song, and he also contributed the lyrics to Rush's Tom Sawyer. He said, yeah, he says, fans are outside the studio. They're cutting their ears off and putting them in envelopes and slipping them under the door. What a crazy image. But it was a great time. They were really, really nice to us. They were fans of what we were doing, and really helped us out a lot. Yeah.
Amazing. And you both shared, I mean, there's a lot of mutual connections and Small World stuff going on, because Terry Brown co-produced early Max albums, right, as well as Rush, of course, and also Pi. Like, all those connections. Did you guys all just hang out at the same coffee shops and stuff, and see each other around?
No, not really. Terry has his own thing. I mean, Terry Brown, who did the early Rush records, he did a few other bands, and we would record in the middle of the night because studio time's cheap through the night, right? And during the day, it's all the car commercials and beer commercials, stuff like that. So there'd be many times. I often told this story on stage before we played the song High Class and Borrowed Shoes. 2 a.m, we recorded that track. It's this rock track, fast rock track, and we get the one, and bang, and we're like, Terry, you look through the glass, Terry, I think that's it, right? And Terry's like falling asleep. And I think one of the guys in Rush said something like, "Oh, don't worry about it, man. He falls asleep with our stuff all the time too." Because it's through the middle of the night. But a good guy. And Terry Brown was one of those guys too. Once again, who did the early Rush stuff. He doesn't ever brag about stuff. He'll go, "Oh yeah." He says, "Yeah, Jimi Hendrix." Yeah, he says, the beginning of Axis. He says, "Yeah, I recorded that." And then he'll go, "Oh yeah, the Who's Can't Explain. Yeah, I was the engineer on that. I actually mixed it." He said the engineer was sick that day, so over then the second engineer would be like, "Here, take over." And so we got to record some of these great bands and see all this stuff going on.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's so cool. God, you mentioned High Class and Borrowed Shoes. I've got memories of playing that song with my friends. I used to sneak into a club when I was 16 or 17, and they would play that song, and I got up and jammed it with them. And it was such a thrill to play that tune. So if you guys haven't heard High Class and Borrowed Shoes, check out that tune, because it is a party. It's fun.
And it was played on a Travis Beam guitar. But,
really?
Yeah, those guitars, they had the metal neck.
Yep.
And as soon as you get on stage, the pitch starts to go up because the heat from the stage and the metal's expanding. Oh man, I think I sold that thing for $400, and then when I read Jerry Garcia got $250,000 for his or something like that, I think the guy who got mine got the better deal. $400.
Those guitars, I remember them. Yeah.
They sounded nice and they looked kind of cool, but it's like, wow, okay, this isn't going to stay in tune.
Somebody's asking in the chat about your guitars, and we got to touch on that, because you're a guitar nerd just like everybody here. So it's like we should talk about it. But back then, so what was your like guitars and amps? What was going on back in the Max days, and then into the kind of transition into the solo years and now?
Max Webster, I played through a deluxe right at my feet. That was it. Crank.
Tweed or blackface or
no, it was Silverface. It wasn't anything special. It was cranked up to 10, full treble, no bass.
Wow.
And I put a JBL in it, and I had that and one of those chorus ensemble pedal, and I think it was either Distortion Plus or Blues Driver. I only used to have two, one or the other. That was it. That's all I used in Max. And then I was like, I'm having trouble hearing myself with just a 22 watt deluxe. So I went and got another one on the other side. So that was my rig for Max, was just two Fender Deluxes.
That's so cool.
And then when I got into, and it was kind of like I'd have an SG, I had an old SG with P90s in it. Then I got a couple Strats, because I never owned Strats until we played with Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. And that guy, we're doing some shows with him, and he didn't say a thing to me the whole time. And then one night after show, we're in a pub, all the band and crew, and we're sitting shoulder to shoulder. And I'm thinking, if he doesn't say anything, like he's going to get branded, or I'm going to say it. And he turns to me, and goes, "You know what I don't like about you?" That's how it was an opening line. I went, "Okay, what?" He goes, "You play a Gibson." He says, "You should be playing a Strat." So I came home a week later and played a Strat and stole his keyboard player, Dave Stone.
That's great.
There you go, Richie. Yeah. What do you think of that now?
He used to play a 335, so that's not fair.
Yeah, and then the 330. I had a 335, which was, I think they're called 347 with a coil tap.
Okay.
They weren't around long. I took the guts out of that guitar, and it became my main guitar in my solo career. I put it in a Strat body, and with the coil taps, and
really,
and a roadie made it for me.
Blue, you're talking about?
Blue, I'm talking about Blue. Yeah, a guy named Ken Newfield, who I still know. He built the thing because he was my tech at the time, and he goes, he saw the stuff in the drawer, and he goes, "What is all this?" And I said, "Oh, it's just the Gibson 3." He says, "Why don't you go pick out a body and a neck, and I'll put a guitar together." So he just threw it together. He hadn't done it before, and what took it to sound check, and my sound man, I see him just stop halfway through it, pulls the faders down, and he walks up, and I'm thinking he's going to go, "That guitar sucks. Go back to it." And he said, "That thing sounds incredible. Wow. Please, does it play okay? Because that is the best guitar I've ever heard you play." So I've had that thing 40 years, and it's just yeah.
Robert Valdez is in the chat asking about it here, so that's perfect.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. That's the story about it. It used to be parts of a Gibson 347, and with it just a off the wall Strat body, and it had a couple necks on it, like a Squire neck at one time, and now it's got sort of a weird thing. And then a guy painted the headstock and said Blue. That's it. It's got a little magical thing to it, but also James Tyler Classic, have one of those.
Okay.
And a custom shop Strat, 58 VOS Les Paul, and that's it. I don't have a lot of stuff. American Standard Strat. This is sort of my workhorse here at the house. Marshall JCM 800, JMP Master Volume, and pedal board made by Dave Phillips, who's also in LA. LA Sound Design. Dave and I, we go back a little bit because, I don't think he likes the fact that I get the gain out of my amp. Dave's of the philosophy, you get everything from your board. You do, clean platform. And I've tried that a couple of times, man. I need to hear the heat from the amp,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You like that.
Well,
good.
I've got
I know you got some gold back there, man.
I love it.
One day, if something goes missing one day, don't call me. I don't have anything to do with it. Okay.
Well, you and I have had a couple good exchanges about amps, a couple talks about amps, and so I was like, okay, he really likes that. You were talking about buying an old Black Flag '67 Plexi a while ago.
From Keith Scott, Brian Adams. He collected. Yeah, he collected some stuff, and he's starting to get rid of some. And it was him that said, "Hey, I got this 100-watt Black Flag," and I was like. And then he sent me a couple clips of him just kind of playing it in his house a little bit. I'm like, because the harmonic content in those old amps, right? I don't have to tell you, because they don't break up a lot. They're actually quite clean.
until you get them really cooking. They're yeah.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah,
well, I mean, that's the one sound that, like, if I had a desert island sound, it's an old plexi. It's like that's
yep.
I could, because you can kind of do everything with that. But as you know, they're a little slow because of, like, just supply chain stuff. But one of those is going to be coming to you to check out real soon.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yes,
which
I'm
does
looking
that
forward to that. I
does that
think that,
great. So.
yeah, they're good, are they? Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah, I
can't
mean,
imagine.
really, really great and really reliable and built, just like a
Sure.
brick shit house. So it's all good.
Oh, good. Well,
Um,
I can't wait, man. And thank you for helping me with that. That's awesome. That's great.
Oh, it's my pleasure, because I can't wait to hear what you think. I love that you love the amp game, because it's just
Oh,
so. I think there's a thing with it's the voltages. I mean, 250 volts with preamp tubes and stuff, just like with the headroom and the roll down and all that. Because do you use the volume control a lot on the guitar, like to roll down?
uh, a little bit, but not as much as everybody else.
Okay.
Because I don't have the plexi I have is a very plex by Blankenship, right?
Oh,
And I've had a little bit of work done on that because those things sounded to me a little bit loose and floppy. So
hmm,
a guy up here sort of changed a couple caps out, and it's a little more lively now. But
okay.
uh, my I, my amp, really, my main amp is an old JCM 800. So
Okay.
you got master volume on that. So I get the preamp just on the edge a little bit and get the amp working a bit, and it's just magic to me. I just love that sound. Um,
Yeah.
and then pedals are always a moving target, right?
Right.
But there's been a few that stay with me, and I'm not affiliated with any of these companies, but the Bemir and Janray I love. The ODR1, and I finally got a Analog Man King of Tone finally, after what's the wait time, half your life.
Yes. It's a
Right.
while, but it's such a good pedal,
A,
isn't it? Yeah, it's a great
oh
pedal.
yeah, well
Yeah.
yeah it is, yeah.
Like, both
Yeah.
sides are really cool. I really like the clean side on it, actually.
Me
The
too,
cleaner of
me
the two
too. It's
is
a
terrific.
Yeah, it's really nice just to do that, or pull in the high one and then add in the clean boost when you really want to go over the top. Like,
Yeah.
it's just things are just jumping.
But would you
Oh
say
man, amps, yes, yes.
I know, I love
But
it.
rather than the clean tone, and like sort of
Would you say you
platforming.
set the amp for, like, a kind of a crunch then, and then you just,
Yep,
alter it with the
yep,
pedal? Okay, got
yep,
it.
yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes, how I don't know if you do this or ever do it, but I won't even play the guitar. I'll sit in front of the speaker and just listen to the hiss and the and get it to. I kind of set it a little bit like that. Bring in the bottom, you hear the you know, and the mids, and then I go,
Yeah.
I think that's going to work. Like wham! It's
I
like,
know
that's
what you
pretty
mean.
close.
I
Do
remember
you?
Dave Friedman saying, like, the presence on an old Marshall, when you turn it and you hear that, like, a certain thing
Yeah.
on that, and you're like, there it is. It's a good thing.
Well, presence does that not? It takes away bottom too, right? Doesn't the presence? Isn't that the idea? Sort of like it's adding presence, yes, but if you notice, a lot of times there's your bottom end's disappearing sometimes.
I guess it depends
Maybe.
on the amp, because it's part of the
Yeah.
power amp circuit with the,
Okay.
negative
Yeah.
feedback and all that when you're
All right.
mixing in but it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting
And
thing.
tell me you're friends with Friedman too, are you? Like, you know all these
Yeah,
cats. Oh yeah, yeah.
really good friends.
Good.
He's both
Yeah.
John and Dave are a couple of my best friends, so they're great guys, and, just like wealths of knowledge.
You know, man, I don't know about you, but some nights my life is so pathetic. I just sit with a screen. Where is it? Here, it's right there, back there. The
Yeah,
TV screen in the background. Turn on YouTube and just go down the hole of guys like fixing little amps and like, okay, I got this, and Uncle Bob or whatever his name is, and all these people online, are like taking apart an amp, and you
yeah.
just think if somebody were to walk in the house right now and watch me like seeing her. Oh, really? Wow. And then calling up another nerd friend, like, hey, the nano Webbers on the.
I love that you're
It's like,
so into this stuff. It's great. It makes me so happy because I mean, everybody in the chat. That's what we do here. This is like a little weekly. We talk
it's
about
our
this.
tools, though, the little improvements, the little things. It's always, we're just refining and finding our direction as musicians, right? So,
It's a great hunt.
and yeah,
It's really fun. Yeah.
and then you get on stage and it's all sounding like terrible and none of it matters. You're like yelling at your guitar tech or whatever. It's like,
I
what
think that's the
happened?
only thing about a lot of the older gear is that it can sound really great under the right circumstances. Great old Black Flag plexi or something that sound terrific, but then from stage to stage, it's like, what happened tonight? Like, it was great yesterday, and today it's like, it sounds like, So there was some of the modern gear.
Is that okay? Is that the gear, or is it us as human beings?
I think it's both in the room and how the amp interacts. But the thing about an old plexi is they're pretty vicious, like with the top end.
Okay.
And I think, and that can be in the right room, it's brilliant, and in the wrong room, it's
they can rip your head off. And but I get little these little baffles in front of mine sometimes. I don't like to use them, but if we're in a theater where the front row is like my two cabinets, because my tech is so funny. Sometimes I'll go, I'll just use one cabinet. And he's going, no, man, two cabinets. He's out there testing and getting it up to room temperature. He's nuts. I love the guy because
I like this guy. Yeah,
because I'll be like, I should probably turn down because it's a theater, and get the PAs are a little small. No, man. He's like, I just restrung it. Listen to it. It sounds great.
Pay that man whatever he wants. He's worth it. Yeah, he can be your buffer between the sound guy and who always doesn't like it, right? Too much. Oh, that's amazing. But I think that at different times you've even experimented, like with all this said about vintage amps and stuff with tube amps. You've experimented with some solid state stuff over the years, and even like a Rockland rig, I think, at once. And did you have any? How was that experience?
For a little while. Wow, you did your homework. The Rockman thing at the time, I thought it was a great idea, right? And then because I think they worked with an amp, meaning like if you had a good amp, and then you could sort of blend in. There was something that the Rockman did on my song "Rockland Wonderland."
Yes.
There's a part that goes there's really nice clean stuff. I did that in Los Angeles with Paul DeBillier, that record, and because he did Mr. Shake These Broken. He did that record, and he did some of the Yes's stuff. He was Yes's sound man live, but that was a Rockman just clean. And I was just like, wow, that sounds really good, clean. We played with Boston and up here in Canada, and Schultz did the sound from the stage.
Wow.
He was having trouble with sound, and he had a set of near fields right in front of him, the board. Like, what's going on? We didn't get a sound check, but it was like a movie, man. I was sitting out watching it, and his text, like, he's got a wall of stuff behind him. I don't even know what it is. It was Rockman's, it was rack mount, that, I don't even know if I saw a speaker cabinet, but every time they turned on, you're like, nothing was working like all afternoon. But then I thought, how are they going to get this together, man? Because it's just like, it's not coming together. And he's like doing the sound from the stage man, they went on at night. I was like, wow, it's incredible. It sounded great.
Wow.
Like, no sound man. It's so weird. Look out front. There's no sound man. Just a light guy.
That's another example of a 70s, artist that came from the 70s that really just boldly, like, I read a little while ago the whole story of Boston and how interesting and what a visionary. I mean, like it or not, it was like to see that through and end up with those hit songs, those massive albums with the way that they were made is amazing. He's an interesting.
At the end of the day, it's about a song, man. It's just about it. Yeah.
Right. Also, I mean, Go for Soda. I mean, like the clean tone in that is incredible as well. Like those that was part of I love that you would switch between that style of tone and then hit the big F chord, in the, at the top of the verse.
Oh, you know the key.
Which is, I was going to ask you about that.
Why is it an F?
Why is it an F? It's so great.
I don't know. Oh, I'll tell you why. Because it's don't down, just that little riff. That's how that song started. Joe, you want to hear Blue Moon? You want to oh, it's the baby moon. Blue Moon makes me thirsty for love. That I started with just that lick, not the opening lick. And the reason why at the opening is a Strat out of phase is because the studio we're in there was some radio tower like a couple blocks away, and you just like, as soon as you use the Strat, it's like. So I put it in out of phase, and that's the only thing I could do. So I just went, and I had the intro written by then, but so I ended up, it was like a kind of happy accident, like one of those crazy ass things. But that song was released at the same time We're Not Gonna Take It came out by Twisted Sister.
Okay,
and we were on the same label, and Go for Soda went. Twisted Sister, and all of a sudden Twisted Sister went like this, and the label went, forget Kim Mitchell. We just fell off the cliff, and anyway, it's cool, man. I'm happy they had a big song, and I ended up doing radio as did Dee Snider.
He's a survivor. I mean, he's been around doing it for so long, and he's that guy. We've got to hand it to him because he sounds great now, and he's doing his thing. He's cool. But that was that ever frustrating? I mean, how was that? Because I know like the whole, big in Canada and then trying to break in the States thing, and you run into this thing with the wall of some guy making a decision about something like that. Like, we're going to put all the support behind Quiet Riot or something. I mean. That stuff, it's the curse of the Canadian bands in some way, isn't it? It's like,
I guess maybe it is. You know what, man, I'm happy the way my life turned out. I'm grateful. I've gotten to rock out, and maybe in that attitude, there's something that other musicians can pick up. That stuff's going to happen, whether you're in the States, whether you're, there's all kinds of things that the industry that are. Once again, it's the old cliche. There's things you can do that are beyond your control, so why get uptight about them? I get to rock out. I'm still, I still get to rock out. I rocked out last night, guitar. So what's not to like about that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a brilliant thing to be a quintessentially, Canadian artist. I mean, I feel that way about Tragically Hip, and I feel that way, like lyrically, you can touch on things that folks might not get in other parts of the.
That's true.
It's a really, really brilliant thing. But I was on that end I was in a band that was all Canadians and signed to a U.S. label and had a Canadian rock hit. And then, it's doing really great in Canada. And then the U.S. label pulls the tour support and all that stuff. So, it can be that.
I was lucky. I got to play through the States quite a bit and Europe.
Yeah. And then, so like 82 comes along, and you sort of test the waters with the solo EP, which comes out, which of course has Kids in Action, which is one of my favorite songs of all friggin' time. It's such an unbelievable chorus.
You know who recorded that? You know who covered that?
I heard that Dave Roth.
David Lee Roth, when Billy Sheehan. Yeah, they call one day the phone rings and they call me. It's Billy Sheehan on the phone. He goes, "Hey, Kim," says, "we're recording Kids in Action. Right now, we're in the studio with Ted Templeman." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "You get the lyrics to the second verse?" I'm like, just let me write them out for a second and call me back." And they did. And it got bumped last minute for Tobacco Road. But
did you hear
who knows what back? No, I never heard it. Dave apparently has the tapes. But, I always kind of doubted it just a little bit, like, yeah, sure, you recorded it. And Billy Sheehan sent me the track sheet one day.
Yeah.
And it was there. I was like, wow, okay, they really did do it. So
that's awesome. I played a show in Germany at a guitar festival with Billy, and we had a great talk about you, actually. And
he's a good dude. Good dude. Right? Yeah.
Didn't he almost, at some point he was almost ended up playing with Max, right?
He was in Max for 2 weeks. He was in Max until we did the song Diamonds, Diamonds, which was this little ballad that we
I love that track.
had. And Billy Sheehan and ballads, you know. He's like doing the Billy Sheehan thing. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Maybe we could turn it into a rock tune. But I love him. I love him. I'm so happy that he's had such a successful career. He's such a good dude. And once in a while, he's kind enough to message me and say stuff like, hey, we should do a song together. And I was a big Tallis fan too. When his band Tallis out of Buffalo trio, and they'd come to Toronto and just place would be packed and people just loved him.
Yeah, he's such a legend. It's true. It's I just wanted to actually touch on that sound. I mean, Diamonds, also like songs that you guys did, Paradise Skies. I mean, the certain sonic character of that band and those records around that time. And then moving into the 80s, things change. Both sounds are great, but you get into the 80s, things get a little more aggressive and like a little brighter, a little like punchier, a little more that whereas that there was kind of that, I think of it as a warmth in the 70s or something. You were there for all that. What was that what was going on during those times from the 70s to the 80s?
You talking sonically and stuff? I think, is that what you're talking about? Or it's like, because when we were talking like that, all these things like, 22 watt deluxe reverb. Oh, JCM 800 in the 80s. More compression, engineers' attitudes changed. It wasn't like I was following any trends. It was just you kind of just writing songs. And I think we all are influenced by things that are going on around us, whether we're conscious of that or not. So, in the 80s, things did change.
And I love that the sound of when you came out with the Kimbo logo, it's got this really great sound to it. And there's obviously the rockers on there, but there's still that there's an element of there's the ballads, which is some of my like the melancholy songs, Caroline or Called Off or those types of songs.
Wow.
Really mean a lot to me. I love those tracks. And then also Rumor Has It, which is this that song is just nuts with the great bridge.
Kind of punky, real aggressive, rip your head off kind of song, real fast. My sound man said he was in the. I don't want to talk anymore. It's okay. It's all right.
No, I love it.
Okay. No, it's just I guess the Stones were in the studio and the engineer played that song. He didn't know they were all coming to the studio, but he was just headed up in the monitors listening to Rumor Has It. And Richards walks in and goes, wow, man, that's some far out rock and roll.
That's great.
I can so picture him saying something like that. Yeah, man, that's far out rock and roll.
That's terrific. That's so awesome. I love that track because it's so quintessentially you and unique. And so, that thing carrying. Well, also the sound with Peter Fredette singing that co-lead vocal thing that you guys developed is so special.
Yeah. Pete's. So there's guys in, I think a lot of bands. Peter's sort of like the edge of U2. It's part of the sound of the band. He's a beautiful singer. And when he came into the band, I was kind of make a joke about it. I go, well, okay, so you're gonna sing and I'll yell. So, and that's kind of because he's got a beautiful voice, lovely voice. So.
Yeah, that must have been just like possibilities here, or that we can both.
Yeah. I mean, first time, when he came into the band, all of a sudden we were getting knocks on the dressing room doors after shows, and I'd open up the door and then, hi, is Peter there? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Hey, I wrote it.
But that's okay, right? It's like take some of the heat off,
Yeah. But he's a fantastic singer, and then we're family. He's been with me a long time. But thanks for bringing up Caroline and Called Off. And I think throughout with writing, my heart does lie in sort of more frantic-y, right, go for soda, rock and roll duty, lager and ale, um, that stuff. But there's also a pretty side that I just kind of go into, and I think that's more what my latest record, The Big Fantasize, when Greg heard the demos of me doing that, he says, Kim, he says, this is a side of you your fans really should. We should do a record of this so your fans, because you do this well. So I said, yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Because I wasn't going to make the record at all. I'm kind of done. It's like walk on stage, play the songs. I'm a customer service and rock and roll. What do you want to hear? I don't need to record another record. But until Greg came along and threw me in down that rabbit hole, and you know how emotionally draining and physically draining making your record is. It's like it's all consuming, right?
Yeah.
People are chattering at you and you don't hear a word they're saying anymore. It's like your family's like, hey, are you in there? What was the question?
Yeah. It's a commitment for sure, but I'm so glad you did it because it's really brilliant. There's a lot of beautiful acoustic guitar on the record as well, which is really fantastic. Is that something you really enjoy playing as well, acoustic?
I'm a terrible finger picker, but I have a thing that I do that I feel somewhat confident. It's kind of it's not really. I remember Paul McCartney saying that too. I'm not comparing myself. It just sort of, he says, I don't finger pick. So I do this kind of crazy thing. So I'm kind of the same. I never studied Travis picking. I sort of get into it for a couple of days and go, I'll just go do what I do. And I think, but I really love playing acoustic. I have a Collins OM1. And
is that what's on the record?
Old, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a crazy old Gibson small acoustic that I play. Has a really unusual sound. It's a smaller body. It's just sitting in the other room here. I've had it. It's mid '60s guitar. I can leave it. In Canada here, our temperature fluctuates and the humidity, but that thing doesn't move now because the resins are all dry. But it has no bottom. It's all mid-range and a little bit of top, to the point where I've recorded that guitar and you'll see the engineer come out and change the microphone and then come out again later and move something around. I'm going, is there a problem? He goes, yeah, the acoustic sounds really weird. Like there's no bottom. I'm like, yeah, that's the acoustic. It has no bottom. But the calling sounds really nice. So there's a song called Montgomery on my new record. It's acoustic. There's a solo that Collins has really bloomed now. It's a hard one, eh? I don't like playing acoustic on stage because I don't think plugged in anything sounds, But
it's
at home, they're so yeah. So I'd rather just, if you're going to do it, I don't know how to make an acoustic guitar sound great live. If someone does, please tell me. Because
one thing I've experimented with lately is IRs, using impulse response, and that really blew me away. How you can transform the sound of a piezo or whatever the pickup's called under the bridge, and then take away the zing, and it all of a sudden warms it up. And so I've had good success with that, but I don't get to do it much because I don't play a lot of acoustic on stage. So I feel like I would have developed it more over the last few years. But it is kind of amazing what they're doing now with that stuff. Like
for sure,
it can warm right up and sound.
Well, but mentioning Keith Scott and getting the Black Flag head from him that I almost did. He says, I'm selling this stuff because it really doesn't matter. He says, up front, they're just using plugins and IR. So it's like, I'm saying, oh, okay, really? So, because big arenas, they just sort of pull that stuff up and it sounds great, apparently.
It's pretty great we're going to send you the PT15, which has the direct out with the IRs on it. And that's what I've been using live. And there is this thing to me to eliminating the microphones where you walk out front, you listen, and it's so present in the PA. It's just that sound is so dialed with no bleed, and it can be a really clear experience that I do really like. But
okay, great. It's right there, right in your face, and it's nice.
Love to see what you think, if it's effective. But yeah, I mentioned the acoustic element in the album because I was going to ask you. I was like, those small body acoustics, and because that's what I was hearing. They can speak so clear. To me, it's a great thing because you don't have to EQ all the bottom end out. It's already done for you, right? With the
there's just this guitar. I know the program. You just take 200, 250 and scoop it out, and the thing, and it sits. It's sitting with the song called Best I Never Had. I'm playing electric guitar on that song, Best I Never Had, on the new record, electric, and the acoustics kind of doing almost the same thing. And it just blends so well with, it's just one of those magical combinations that I really like. Whereas the Callings is more like you can feature it. It can be like the main attraction.
There's some great tones on that song, but if you haven't checked out the record, listen to Best I've Ever Had. I mean, some of the electric guitar tone is just that's
the James Tyler classic, man. I did that stuff in the house with just my JCM 800, and there's a little bedroom off in the basement.
Okay.
And every once in a while I poke my head up and go outside to the neighbors and go, "Are we okay?"
Are we okay?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I told my husband, I said, "Why are you listening to the TV so loud?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I mean, stuff like that. But then they're kind of cool. They're like, "Hey." So
I lived in a place that had one shared wall, and in this place I had a mic'd up cabinet in a closet, and I tried to put it as far away from the shared wall as I could. But I remember taking my guitar with a wireless and walking over next door and knocking on the door and saying and I got, they thought I was nuts. They come to the door and they're like, "What are you doing with your guitar?" I'm like, "Can you hear this?" through the.
Oh,
they're like,
yeah.
No, I'm like, "Good."
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I had one of those moments too, Pete, where I just went, okay, I got to check to see what's going on here. So I just put the guitar in front of the amp, like running around the house, and I'm like, I can kind of hear it, but like in the basement, it's just like, it's just feedback's in there. Yeah,
it's a good thing.
You got to test the waters, right? I mean, when you live somewhere and you want to use a real amp, us amp guys and girls, right?
It's absolutely, and there's a thing with me where I can't play if, that thing where, especially when you're in studio, you're working things out, you're trying to get the part. You're like, if anybody can hear me, I'm embarrassed right now, And so I specifically this room I'm in,
exactly
lots of drywall and green glue, and it's real sealed, and I can crank up in here and it's good, But I was going to ask you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, that insecure stuff that we go through as musicians, like, I don't want anybody to hear this, but. Sometimes I'll go downstairs. I know they can kind of hear what I'm playing, and I'm just kind of, checking a pedal or something. So I'm kind of playing the same riff over and over for like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I can sketch them going, "Oh God, he's at it again,"
Yeah.
I don't want him to. So I guess, is that why we moved to the country or something, and, become reclusive, and there we are. Hey, that guy, does anybody live with him? No, it's just an amplifier. It's really big and loud.
He has a great time, but he needs to be all alone.
Yeah, that's right.
Great his art. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, it really is a thing where if I know somebody can hear me, I mean, in all honesty, it's like I just like to be able to do my thing and then present it once it's somewhat dialed in.
Because there's a long process to get our work to where we'll go, okay, sure, I'm ready for you to hear it.
Right.
Like my new record, man, I didn't play it for anybody until it was like basically Greg went, and Greg and I were like, yeah, okay, there, it's done, it's mixed, and it was like, okay, I'm ready for. But the rest of the time, it's like, hey, can I come over and hear it? No, sorry.
Yeah. Do you ever do the thing where like you've got a demo or something, or you have a friend that does this where there, used to be a CD, you're putting it in the player or whatever, and as you're doing it, you're saying, but it's not mixed yet, and it's da 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 da, and it's like, you're making all these excuses on the way to the play button.
Yeah,
I never want to feel like that.
Yep. Talent is insecure. All talent, I feel, is insecure. I was told that when I went into radio, and this sort of radio guru came in to sort of spend some time with program directors and talk about their announcers. And they're saying they look at the announcers as the talent of the station. They said, hey, listen, you program directors, you need to know, managers, you need to know your talent. All of them are insecure, every one of them. So, how you say things to them, and how we're We're sensitive little creatures, Pete.
That's true. I'm a Cancer. Be nice to me. You know?
Oh, are you really? So am I.
Yeah, are you?
No way.
When's your birthday?
July 10th.
July 10th. I'm June 24th. So.
Okay. Yep, you are. Yep.
Here's to the sensitive Cancers. We're very
another nice. Canadian Rick Emmett, Cancer. Every Rick Emmett of Triumph.
Yeah. Amazing guitar player. What a career.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I was actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, man. No, I could. I was just gonna say we probably talked way long enough. I'm sure, like the one listener that's left. It's like,
we got 460.
Can you guys knock it off?
And I don't want to keep you too long, too. I don't know how much time you have, so please tell me if it's I don't want to overstay my welcome.
Okay, so here's what's going on today. You come off the road, you have a gig for the first time. You know what it's like the next day after. You're kind of frazzled for 20. So what happens? Your son calls you and wants, hey, we're all going to come over for dinner, and can you cook something? It's like.
So you got that, okay? And I know it's 3 hours
It's
later.
Cool. It's cool, man. It's cool. They're all good. They're just waiting for my call.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to keep you too long because I know that's you're on the East Coast, so I should let you go soon. But what's next for you as far as gigs or new music? What's in the plans for?
Nothing right now. Just I have released that record, The Big Fantasize. Please check it out. It's on all the streaming services. I said to the agents, no gigs till 22, but this one came up that we did last night, and I just went, oh, okay, why not? Why not go and have some fun and see where we're at? It was pretty dusty for a little while, but we got her done. So nothing much, just trying to stay positive. It's been a crazy time, as you know. And
how do you feel about? I mean, the whole. I mean, during pandemic times and stuff like that. About that, because it's like I mean, everybody I know is going through stuff. Their own.
Yeah. I think we all are. I think we no matter where you are, sitting on what side of the fence you're on, or wherever. Are having days where it's like everything's fine, and then days where you're like, I think I'm losing my mind. I mean, really, and we'll have to the people that we love and care about, sort of have to watch out for that and check in a little more with them.
That's great advice.
As they should check in with you and I, just people that friends or whatever. It's like, hey man, how you doing? Even to say what I just said, hey, some days I feel like this, some days, let's yak about it or something for a few minutes.
Yeah,
so it kind of helps, right? Yeah,
it's so important. I mean, this thing, honestly, all you guys watching, I say this every week these days, but this is a very therapeutic thing for me. Just to have something to look forward to every week to come here, and we kind of forget about the world for a minute and just talk about tubes and amps and pedals, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Last night I was prepared. What if you can do a gig? I thought, what if there's like some people gonna make some noise and protest and stuff like that? It's like, well, Kim, we're just bringing some music to people for a couple hours to escape into Rockland Wonderland. That's our job, right? It's like, let's enjoy some tunes and the musical energy, and that's what our job is to take whatever every audience member's life, whatever they're going through, let's bring them along for a little musical journey and just let's distract, because I'm certainly getting distracted, so hopefully you will be too for a couple hours. Let's just groove out.
That's all we can do.
Okay, sorry to get deep, man.
No, it's great. It's brilliant. It's actually a great way to wrap up. I think it's so important, and that's what music's supposed to do, right? Take us on a little ride for a bit. So it's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hang for a sec.
Us deaf with the Marshalls in the back and the plexi sounds. Real amps.
Real amps out there, everybody.
What the heck is an IR? I don't even. What do you mean a plug-in? What do you mean a plug? And another thing. What do you mean you want my amp isolated in another room? What are you talking about? How's it going to feed back? And how am I going to get that harmonic-y stuff, right? I'll sit there and put headphones on and crank them up for 10 minutes, and because my amp, I need to feel that.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, it's
old
part of the
school that
instrument.
way.
Yeah.
I respect players like the Guthrie Traps and stuff like those guys that are like in a studio session, and Tom Bukovac and all these great Nashville guys, like they're sitting there and they're playing this amazing stuff. Like their amps like in another room, they got these little headphones. I'm like, how do you make that expressive? And like I don't know, it's like you got to feel that amp, feel the guitar vibrating a little bit when
Right.
I don't know.
Well, you mentioned Jimmy.
That's
I mean, that's where
exactly.
If he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have made that music. It would have been
Can you imagine? Hey Jimmy, can we put your amp in another room? Point taken, Pete.
You might as well hand him a kazoo. It's like it's not the same instrument.
Exactly. Well, he did play a kazoo on what was it, Crosstown Traffic. So there.
Good point. Touche.
Wasn't it a kazoo? What was a kazoo? Wasn't
it sounds like a kazoo, but if it had been a kazoo, or if it hadn't been a kazoo, if that was all there was, I don't think we would have, been such fans.
Yeah, no, good talking to you, man.
It's great chatting with you. Hang out for a second, and I'll say goodbye to you proper in a second. But I'm going to end the broadcast. You guys, thank you so much, Alex S. You sent a super chat. I really appreciate it. And I'll be here, same time, same place. You know where I'll be. Thanks, Kim, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete, and thank you, watchers and listeners.